going on, guys? My name is Tim Ruswick, and today I wanted to talk about how you can make better games. You can design better games. You can design better sequences. You can design better levels. You can design better everything by thinking about user stories. So if you don't know what a user story is, let me kind of fill you in on this and kind of walk you through how some of this stuff works. So in agile development, there's a concept called user stories. And basically, it's the concept of telling a story of a user from their perspective, what they want, and why. And basically, it goes something like this. Because, let's say, because not everybody has all the same type of users in programming, right? So, like, there might be power users. There might be people that use the software once in a blue moon. There might be people that are forced to use the software that don't necessarily want to use it, right? So having that kind of stuff from game development, like using that kind of mythology and pulling into game development, I think is really effective, because the same thing applies to games. Not all players are going to be the same. Not all players are going to want the same things out of your game. So understanding the different types of players and kind of thinking through their story and what they want and why is really important in design. So you want to think what specific users will want out of your game. So for my game, Philophobia, because I'm so wrapped up in this, it makes perfect sense to go through that as an example. But basically, I probably have a couple different types of users. But let's simplify it, and let's just say I have the casual users and I have the hardcore users. Let's just say I have only those two. There's a lot more intricacy in how that works. There's some people that go fast. There's some people that go slow. There's some people that get turned on by challenge. There's some people that get turned off by challenge. You see what I mean? So like this has infinite complexity. It can get as complex as you want it to get. But for simplicity's sake, let's just say I got casual users and hardcore users. So I might say, as a hardcore user, I want harder experiences so that I can feel powerful, right? So something just as simple as that, right? By understanding that and by stating that, from their perspective, writing that down maybe in a document, you can kind of look at that constantly as a way to design for those types of people, right? And we talk about our audience sometimes as our target audience. That's the marketing term for it. It's a very militaristic, like, targeting, right? But a lot of times, and I've talked about this in videos, is the target market is just the people you're targeting. It's only one subsection of the total market, right? So you got this big circle, it's a total market. Your target market's only like a little sliver of it, which is good. You got to know who your game's for, but that doesn't mean that only those people are going to play it. So you want to think outside of the box and kind of push that out and really kind of think about how people are going to interact with the game and what they're going to want out of it. So again, in Philophobia, hardcore users are going to want maybe experiences that challenge them, right? Casuals that want to experience the story, maybe they're going to want really good storytelling. Maybe they're going to want to feel emotion. Maybe they're going to want to explore the world, right? And that's different than what the hardcore guys want, right? Maybe they want a really tough challenge and all that. And so by keeping in mind these different stories of these different types of users, I can design things intentionally for each different type of person, while still keeping the same target audience, while still keeping my game on track. So in Philophobia, for an example, I have the core experience, which is designed for people that want a hard platformer, right? Like, that's the core, that's the target, the people that want an experience that's somewhat of a hard platformer. But those are broken down people that want to play the platformer kind of mindlessly, and the people that really want to challenge themselves and go overboard. And I've talked about this in a few videos before, but the way that I separate out the levels is really important in this, right? Because there's some really hardcore levels that are ridiculously hard. And for me to put those levels in the campaign, I might block some of those other players from completing the campaign. I might force them to quit. I might discourage them from continuing, if that makes sense. So I want to remove them from the campaign for one, user story, right? For the people that just want to experience the game. But at the same time, I don't want to completely remove them from the game, because then for the other user story, the hardcore user story, people that want to challenge themselves, they're going to want that content. So what's the solution? How do I serve both of these people at the same time with the same game and not lose sight of who I'm making a game for and not end up making a big game that's a jumbled mess of all kinds of stuff? Well, my solution, which I've talked about a few times, is to take all of the really hardcore levels, lock them behind a section that you can unlock after you beat the campaign, and then in each level there's a collectible that's usually in a really hard to get to spot that the hardcore players can collect, but it's optional. So if you're just a casual player and you want to breeze through the game, you totally can do that. And you can, I mean, it's still going to be hard because it's a hard game, but it's going to be significantly easier than if you get the collectible. But if you want to challenge yourself, right? If you want to challenge yourself, you can get that collectible, you can unlock the extra hard levels, and you're rewarded with more challenge. So again, this is something I touched on in a couple of videos, but I wanted to talk about in the context of user stories because I feel like this is a really cool tool. It's something that I kind of do. It's something that I did in marketing to understand different types of people when they would buy something. For example, if they're going to buy a supplement or something, you have, for different types of supplements, you have various different types of people, right? So let's say like something like protein powder. A lot of people, their whole objective with buying protein powder is bulking up. So these people, they want bigger muscles so they can feel confident, right? That's their user story for a subset of people. There's also people that buy protein powder because they don't get enough protein in their diet, right? They might have, they might eat a lot of greens and not a lot of meat, and so they might actually need protein. So their user story might be, I want to buy protein powder so that I can get the proper amount of protein in my diet and not die, you know, or not feel bad all the time, or just, you know, be able to operate as a human being. So those are two very different user stories for the same customer to buy the same product, right? But understanding what drives both of those type of people is really important in marketing. And as you can imagine, it's really important in game design, because if you don't understand the intrinsic motivations of the different types of people that are playing your game, then you're going to have kind of a hard time designing or figuring out who your game's for. And one of the easiest ways to do this, so now that we talk about kind of what it is and how it works, one of the easiest ways that I've found to do this is not to actually design it in the beginning, but to discover it. So in marketing, the same thing. I would go through the data of all the people that have bought the product, right? And I would look at their age. I would look at the types of stuff that they buy. I would look at their buying patterns and all that. In game design, I do the same thing. I have testers play through the game, and I watch them play. I have my testers film a video of themselves playing my game. So after, 15, 20 people play through the game on video, I can watch them all, and there are going to be patterns in how people play. With Phylophobia, for example, like I said, there are people that rush. They're the rushers, right? And they die a lot. But they know they die a lot, but they want to keep rushing because that's just how they learn. They just rush through things and they die, and then they rush through things and they know to jump at that spot where they died. And then there's the super cautious people. The people that play very cautiously. They look around every corner. They go super slow. They're kind of discovering where they're at. And again, this is something I didn't design for, right? Because I'm actually a super rushy player. That's how I play. I just rush, and if I die, I just start over again. I just go at it. And so there are a couple things that I designed in the game to stop that from happening. Like there are events that are timed properly to where if you just rush, you'll get like eaten by an enemy, for example. And I designed that because that's how I play. So for me, it was like, okay, I'm going to make sure that this person gets killed if they do this. But I didn't expect the slow, cautious player. That was something I discovered by watching people play the game. And in many regards, a slow, cautious player, because of the way I designed the game, is actually a better way to play the game. So I've been designing levels to kind of reward or punish certain behaviors, but at the same time not punish any single playstyle, because I want to keep in mind those user stories of those types of people. There's some people that are just really cautious because they want to make sure that they don't die because they don't like dying, right? That's kind of how they play the game. And then there are people that don't really see any significance to death at all, and they're just running at things, and if they die, they just run at it again, and they do the thing. And keeping in mind the kind of type of people that they are, and the way they interact with the world, and the intrinsic motivation of playing the game and getting the objectives and all that stuff, and the way that they're doing those things is really, really important. So I would just say keep an eye on what people do when you watch them play your game, and write down some user stories. I like to have between 3 to 5 different types of people that I think play the game. And it's kind of hard to just come up with these, like just invent them, right? So it's easier to discover them, like I said. So it really helps to watch people play your game and kind of organize them into sections like, okay, these people are cautious, these people are rushy, you know, these casual, hardcore, these people go for challenge, these people shut down with challenge. And then once you've isolated those people, you can kind of understand their motivations. It takes a lot of work, right? It's not exactly easy all the time, but it's very valuable from a game design standpoint. And it's something that I definitely recommend that you try. So it's a little bit advanced stuff, but I hope you found it useful. I hope you can get some use out of it. If you did, please leave me a like and a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Have you ever experimented with user stories? Have you ever done anything like that? Is this the first time you're hearing about the concept? Is this something that you want to explore, something you've done before? Let me know down below in the comments. But once again, my name is Tim Roswick, and I will see you again tomorrow.